Hello, everyone. My name is Sofia Lekka Angelopoulou, Editor-in-Chief of Designboom magazine, and I'm very happy to welcome Nina Magon, founder and principal of Nina Magon Studio. Working across the globe, the studio delivers luxurious retail, commercial and hospitality projects, as well as interior design products. So I wanted to start this talk with an introduction about the studio, when was it founded, and how you managed to evolve into this incredible ecosystem of design that is sort of bridging different elements together.
So thank you so much for having me here. I just got into Paris last night after a 10-hour cancellation of flights from Amsterdam. So I'm so happy to be here. So thank you so much.
Thank you for making it.
So obviously, you know, Paris is a big important market for me. Maison&Objet is an important market for us here in the US. I am born in Canada, in Saskatchewan, Canada, who then we moved to Houston, Texas. Has anyone been to Texas before? Good. Where? Houston, Austin? Austin, yeah. Well, I think, you know, unfortunately, due to the Los Angeles fires, I think many people will be moving to Texas. It's a big market for us now. But anyways, I moved to Houston, and I actually studied economics and finance from Southern Methodist University in Dallas. I was always interested in fashion. So I thought I wanted to be a fashion designer, even though I did business. And obviously, my background, my family is from India. So, you know, Indian parents, they always say you have to have a business degree, you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer. So I was lucky that I ended up doing my major in economics and finance, and I took fashion classes on the side. So right when I graduated from college, I opened up this is another thing that's very unique for Indian people, but I opened up a European lingerie store in the Houston Galleria because I wanted to compete against Victoria's Secret. Does everyone know Victoria's Secret? Yes? So I was very young. I was only 22, and I said, I want to compete against Victoria's Secret, and I want to have this European lingerie. Like, I don't know if anyone, I know this is very personal, but hanky-panky is the best underwear ever. And
Great
so,
advice.
huh?
Great
It
advice.
is? Yeah. And so I used to carry those brands in my store, and I was more interested in the design of the store than I was in the actual material and product that was inside the store, and arranging the store to see where does the underwear go, or where does the bras go, how should it be laid out in terms of functionality and sale. It's then that I ended up leaving retail because retail for me was a very, very difficult business. So I ended the store at the age of 24, so I only did it for 2 years, unfortunately. But I was exposed to a lot of different people and a lot in the realm of design. So from there, you know, my family has a real estate company. So I ended up doing part of the real estate company with them, and Houston was booming at that time. So I said, I want to build a house, and I want to see what it's like to build a house. So I hired a superintendent. The superintendent ended up teaching me how to build a house. I picked all the materials for the house, and after the house was sold before completion, I had made more money in that one real estate transaction than I did in 2 years of my lingerie business. At that point, when someone came to the house, they said, who designed this house? And I said, what does that even mean? And they said, who designed the house? Are you an interior designer? That was the very first time that I heard the word interior designer. I did not even know that such a thing existed, that you can go to school and study interior design. It was at that point that I went to the Art Institute of Houston and I studied interior design. I ended up hiring my architect teachers who were working for me, who were teaching me. It was my AutoCAD teacher who I ended up hiring, who taught me a lot, and he introduced me to modern design. He's the first person who taught me what a concrete house would look like. How do you build a cinder block house? What are the advantages of building a concrete house? Why is modern superior to traditional in his opinion? And so it was at that point that my design career started. It's been 12 years from that point, and now we design globally. We work for the royal family of Abu Dhabi. We design houses all over the world and commercial properties and hospitality. Our team is very well versed in always seeing what the newest things are, not necessarily trends, but what is new and what is cutting edge and what is out there. And obviously, Maison&Objet is a huge platform for that.
Thank you. And as we see images of your projects and the very diverse portfolio of work that you do, you have this aesthetic that is often described as bold and edgy, colorful, but also timelessly modern. And I was wondering if you can expand a little bit on those qualities and how you integrate them as sort of maybe as principles in the way that you approach new projects.
So, you know, when we started designing, we were obviously designing in Texas. Texas is a very traditional state. I don't know, does anyone remember Marge Carson? They were a big furniture designer out of the US with tassels and velvet chairs and things like that. And so the Houston market or the Texas market really loved Mediterranean design. So for me to want to do modern design, I had to stand out in some way because I was going against the curve of the area that I live in, which was my demographic. And so we said we have to do bold design. What does bold mean? Bold means something that is very different from what everyone else was doing. It was pushing the edge. It was doing something that was more modern. It was having those moments of statement pieces, such as a statement lighting piece or a statement kitchen. You know, I remember that one of the first remodeling projects that we ever did, we did a kitchen from a company called Cantoni. And I'm not sure if they're still here, but they were the biggest modern company at that time. So we did a kitchen with them, and my mother-in-law walked into the house, and she said, "Oh, what a lovely office." Okay, so you can understand that the education was not there where we lived. And Houston is the 4th largest city in the United States. But in terms of design, they didn't understand bold, forward-thinking, minimalist design and modern. And, you know, that became one of my mantras is how do we have those impactful spaces in the designs that we do? Now, obviously, we use a lot of color, but none of our designs look the same. And I think that's one of the things that we really pride ourselves on, is how do we, in every design that we do, whether it's a commercial project, a residential project, hospitality, how do we make that unique for the client that we're working with? And that is the most important thing for us.
Thank you. So going back to the title of our talk and the idea of infusing retail spaces with a sense of home, I wondered what it means to you for a retail interior to evoke a sense of home, and why do you think it's important to have this idea, like this experience when we shop, basically?
So I think that home doesn't necessarily mean the physical structure. Home is what gives you that sense of emotion. It's the storytelling of when you come home. It's the feeling that is evoked within you when you enter into a space. Home means somewhere where you feel very comfortable and confident in. And so what's happening in our commercial spaces is, as everyone knows, experiences are one of the biggest things. People don't want a commercial space designed for them anymore that looks just, you're here to sell. That's not the point anymore. The point is what is the experience that you feel? For example, I was just in Dubai. I go there quite frequently. I was there for 10 days for New Year's. We stayed at the Jumeirah properties in Dubai. Has anyone been to Dubai? Has anyone been to Al Nasim? No? Okay. So the biggest thing about Al Nasim, which is a very big hospitality project, it is when you walk in, you know the exact feeling you're going to have. You can smell it. You can see it. The way everyone is dressed is exactly the same. It's the feeling that it gives me. The new Atlantis Hotel had just opened in Dubai just recently, and that is the 7-star hotel of Dubai. I think that's the only 7-star hotel in the world. But why do I always go back to Jumeirah? It's because of the feeling that it gives me. It's the storytelling that I feel for myself when I enter into that place. So now the question of how do you bring home into a retail environment? Again, it's not necessarily aesthetics. It's that feeling that you get. It's the emotion that you get when you walk into that space, which is the most important thing.
So what would you say are some interior elements, whether they're products or construction-wise, or even like scents or things like that, that would make like a retail interior feel like home or evoke this sense of home for people?
Well, I think it depends. You know, for instance, we did a lounge in one of the biggest jewelry stores in Texas. They have a location in Austin and Houston now. They're kind of like the Harry Winston of Houston. That's it, actually, right there. And it ended up being calling the Nina Megan Lounge because they wanted my name on the space. And so what this is actually I think it's about 25,000 square foot jewelry store. This is the lounge that's upstairs. So it is also a retail space where we sell some of our dishes and some of our cutlery that we have. But the greatest thing about this place is that it is a lounge inside of a retail store. So all the people who come from Cartier, the CEOs of Cartier, of Hublot, of Piaget, they come and have their meetings in this room. But when you look at this room, it doesn't look like a meeting room. It looks like you could be in a lounge somewhere. So this is a perfect example of how you bring home into retail. It's creating the comfort so that very difficult or meaningful conversations can happen in these very important spaces. And I think that's one of the biggest things. In home, you're trying to be very intimate for the client. In a commercial space or a retail space, it's not only that you're trying to sell something, but you're trying to give them the experience so that they want to be a continuous customer for years and years and years. It's not just that one time.
Just because you mentioned this difference between bringing something to a client who wants a home or somebody who wants a retail space, and you've designed both, so you have experience in both residential and commercial spaces. So I was wondering if you could share some of the differences and how you approach each of them, and if you can see some similarities or if there's a way to bridge sort of this approach.
So I think home and retail or home and commercial spaces are approached very differently. First of all, the homes that we design, usually there's a wife, and the wives are very difficult, but you know they're very involved. It's a very intimate space for a client. It's where they're going to share their memories. It's where they're going to have their family gatherings. So that story is so important because that is the client. In a commercial or a retail space, it's very different because you need to really attack what that brand identity is. Who is the customer? Who is the client? What is the functionality of the space? And many times for us in commercial, it's what is their budget? They have a very strong budget. What is the budget? How do we fit a certain design aesthetic within the budget? Whereas what's very interesting in residential, generally there is no budget. Everything is purchased based on emotion. If they like something, they will buy it. Generally, it's the wife. If she likes something, that's what she wants, that's what she'll buy. So the budget kind of becomes ambiguous. Whereas in commercial spaces, there's a very distinct budget. We have to design within that price point. And we have to make sure that the brand identity of that commercial brand is maintained from the moment that the customer walks in.
Do you sometimes have commercial clients or retail clients who, because it's often that the lifespan of a retail interior is not as long as a home, for example, and they're designed differently also in that sense. But do you have clients who might ask you to redesign their interiors and then sort of maintain this idea of like the identity or the sense of home or the sense of familiarity for their clients? And how do you approach that?
Well, I think also right now, technology and AI is such a big thing for residential and commercial interiors. With AI and the introduction of AI, people are wanting to change their houses on a regular basis. For instance, you know, and it's not just about aesthetics. For instance, a lot of our clients now, they want that scent that you can put in the HVAC system, where when you walk into your house, you have a lavabo smell, for example, or some kind of smell that reminds you of home. So every time you smell that, you remind yourself of home. And so I think it's really attacking the five senses. It's not just visual anymore, which is something for a designer. I think that's something we really have to keep in mind, is design is not visual. Design is everything now. And I think that's the difference, that clients are also, they're also experiencing that. They're also wanting that. They want the oxygen in their HVA systems now to purify the air. They want the smell. They want the phone that can turn on your stove before you come home. They want all these things, and that is changing the face of design in general.
So it's also the other way around, somehow, like commercial interiors invading home interiors in a way. As we're looking at projects, I was wondering if you can also delve into some retail and commercial projects of yours that evoke this idea of home, and how you did mention the lounge, but if we could maybe...
So obviously this is a spa. So this is a spa that we did in Houston. And anyone who's designed a spa knows that spas are supposed to be a sanctuary. It's somewhere where you should relax. It's where you should unwind. And so by we added sofas. There's a retail section in this area too, but since you have two very plush sofas, you don't necessarily feel that you're sitting amongst retail. You feel that you could be sitting in a family room somewhere, but there happens to be functional product behind you. And so again, it's the emotion that we're trying to create. It's the storytelling of the space, and that's really what makes the difference.
I also wanted to ask you, because last year you were appointed as the US ambassador for Maison&Objet, and I wondered if you can share a little bit your experience and how it's been this year, and how you see the fair.
So first of all, I'm very proud to be the United States ambassador. I think that culturally, actually bringing cultures in from all around the world now, design has become so multicultural, it's not indicative of one city or one country anymore. And fairs like Maison&Objet, fairs like Salone, these are the fairs that bring design to the forefront, regardless of where you live. And so being the ambassador of Maison&Objet is so important to me, because it's really emphasizing the idea of bringing all cultures together in one space to really represent and celebrate design.
Maison&Objet also launched Women in Design, which this talk is also part of, the first international network of women who innovate in the decoration, design, and hospitality industries. And I was wondering if you could share a bit about your experience as a female designer in the field, and how, like, maybe if you've faced any challenges, or if you think that things have sort of progressed.
So my opinion is that design in general has been very male dominated, whether that be interiors, whether that be architecture, or whether that be development. Development in the US is kind of like the big boys club. It's very difficult for a female to enter in as a developer in the United States. I don't know how it is here, but in the United States, it's very, very difficult. I don't think I can even name one woman who leads a very strong development company in the United States. In terms of design, I feel the same way. I think it is very difficult when there are big projects for design that come up, whether they be Miami or New York or anywhere. If it is a female-driven company, generally the male company is the one who gets the project. And this is a narrative that I think is so important to me, and it's a narrative that I think we have to change. You know, even for the first time, I went to Salone probably 8 years ago. And in Salone, I saw many, many men, many Italian men, but they were all men. And so, you know, when I thought about it and I said, who is the biggest Italian woman designer? The only person who came to mind was Patrizia Arcola. I couldn't name, obviously there's Rosanna Orlandi, but I couldn't really name. I could name the female Italian designers on my hand. I could not name the men because there was too many men to name. And so I think that Women in Design is a very, very important initiative, because it is really breaking those glass ceilings. As much as we would like to think in today's age that women have evolved, unfortunately, you know, I really struggled as a designer. I had to fight my way through. Number one, I was a woman. Number two, I was a minority. Number three, my background was from India. I was not Italian. And so breaking those constant cultural backgrounds has been something that has been very difficult and very challenging. And only now, after doing it for 12 years, do I see some kind of breakthrough. And that's why women in design for me is something so important, because we as women, we kind of do it all. We're mothers, we're wives, we take care of everything. And it is so important for us to really promote ourselves, especially the ones who are in business as well, because we work so hard to take care of everything. And on top of that, if we're ambitious, we should be celebrated, not condemned for wanting to do what we really want.
Do you have any advice for young female designers on how to sort of navigate their way, maybe through your experience, that it could sort of help?
Well, I'm hoping with platforms such as Maison&Objet and such as Women in Design, I'm hoping that we change this storytelling and narrative for the younger designers that are coming in, where we can really promote those women designers, where we can tell them you can really do anything you want. You can be a designer, you can be a mother, you can do everything. And I think this is, although some people may not like the topic, this is a very important topic. It's at the forefront and something that has to be discussed.
Thank you so much. Maybe we can open the floor to questions if somebody has anything to ask.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having us here.